The internet is on fire tonight, and fans are saying this might be the messiest leak yet. Just when everyone thought the drama had finally cooled down, receipts have surfaced that are shaking the reality TV world to its core. Screenshots, voice notes, late-night messages, and at the center of it all? A secret bond nobody saw coming between Mena and Mendeecees. What started as whispers in fan forums has exploded into full-blown chaos, with insiders claiming these leaked receipts tell a very different story than what viewers were shown on camera. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family was left divided as questions began piling up fast. Were these two really just friends? Or has a hidden emotional connection been quietly unfolding behind closed doors while cameras and spouses were none the wiser? Sources say the messages reveal late-night confessions, coded language, and moments of vulnerability that crossed lines long ago assumed to be untouchable. One insider claims this wasn't random. This was built over time. And once the screenshots hit the group chat, there was no going back. Heated arguments erupted, accusations flew, old wounds were ripped wide open, and trust shattered in real time. Friends reportedly took sides, family members demanded answers, and fans? They're replaying old scenes, searching for clues they missed, side glances, awkward silences, moments that suddenly make sense in a terrifying new way. Because if these receipts are real, then everything we thought we knew was just a carefully staged illusion. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear isn't just gossip. It's a story of loyalty tested, boundaries crossed, and a secret bond that may have just detonated an entire empire. The moment the receipts leaked, everything changed. Fans woke up to screenshots spreading like wildfire across timelines, group chats, and fan pages, all pointing back to one explosive name pairing no one was ready for: Mena and Mendeecees. At first, people thought it was another fake rumor, another cloud-chasing thread meant to stir chaos. But then the details started lining up. Timestamps, inside jokes, emotional language that didn't sound casual or friendly. Fans were shocked, and emotions ran high as the reality set in that something much deeper had been happening behind the scenes. It all allegedly started months ago, during a time when both were dealing with personal stress no one saw on camera. According to insiders, Erica had been feeling isolated, claiming that the people around her only saw the TV version of her, not the real woman underneath. Mendeecees, on the other hand, was said to be frustrated, feeling unheard and boxed in by expectations from family and fans alike. What began as innocent check-ins quickly turned into long late-night conversations. One leaked message read, "You're the only one who really gets me right now," followed by a heart emoji that fans say crossed an invisible line. Those close to them claim the tone of the messages shifted fast. The conversations became more personal, more emotionally charged. Erica allegedly opened up about past betrayals, her fears of being abandoned, and how tired she was of always being painted as the villain. Mendeecees reportedly responded with reassurance, telling her she wasn't crazy, that her feelings were valid, and that he admired her strength. Fans are now replaying old episodes, pointing out scenes where the two seemed unusually close, moments that once felt harmless but now feel loaded with meaning. Behind closed doors, tension was already building. Family members reportedly noticed changes in behavior. Erica was said to be glued to her phone, smiling at messages she refused to explain. Mendeecees allegedly became distant, distracted, snapping over small things. One source claims a family dinner ended abruptly when someone jokingly mentioned Erica's name and the room went silent. The energy shifted instantly, the source said. You could feel something wasn't right. The real explosion came when a mutual friend stumbled across the messages accidentally. According to the leak, the friend confronted Erica privately, asking her outright if something inappropriate was going on. Erica allegedly broke down in tears, insisting it wasn't physical but admitting the bond had become too deep to ignore. Those words alone were enough to set off alarm bells. Emotional intimacy, fans say, can be just as damaging as a physical affair. And once that confession spread quietly through inner circles, it was only a matter of time before it reached the public. When Mendeecees was allegedly confronted, emotions ran high. Sources claim he denied wrongdoing at first, saying the messages were taken out of context. But when presented with specific screenshots, his tone reportedly changed. One insider says he went quiet, then admitted he might have leaned on Erica too much during a vulnerable period. That admission alone sent shockwaves through the family. Accusations flew, voices were raised, and the family was left divided over whether this was a harmless emotional connection or a betrayal that crossed unforgivable lines. Friends began choosing sides almost immediately. Some defended Erica, saying she's always been open about her emotions and that people unfairly demonize her. Others weren't buying it, accusing her of knowingly stepping into a situation that could blow up multiple lives. Mendeecees' inner circle reportedly felt betrayed, questioning why he would confide in someone outside the family instead of addressing issues at home. Fans are shocked at how quickly loyalties shifted, with some longtime supporters saying they feel played by what they now see as a carefully managed public image. As more receipts continued to surface, the tone grew darker. A leaked voice note allegedly captured Erica saying, "If people knew the truth, everything would fall apart." That single sentence sent fans into a frenzy. What truth? How deep did this bond really go? Speculation exploded, with theories ranging from secret meetups to plans that never made it past the talking stage. Blogs ran with headlines, reaction videos flooded YouTube, and comment sections turned into battlegrounds. The pressure became unbearable. Insiders say Erica felt cornered, claiming she never intended for things to spiral this far. Mendeecees, meanwhile, was reportedly dealing with intense backlash from family members who felt humiliated by the public spectacle. Late-night arguments became routine, with accusations of manipulation, emotional cheating, and broken trust thrown back and forth. Nothing was resolved, only buried deeper under layers of denial and resentment. And just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get any messier, a final message leaked that changed everything. It was short but devastating. "No matter what happens, what we have is real." That line alone has fans questioning whether this was ever just a friendship at all. Because if it was truly innocent, why did it need to be hidden? Why the secrecy, the emotional intensity, the fear of being exposed? As the fallout continued to grow, one thing became painfully clear: this wasn't just about gossip anymore. It was about trust shattered, relationships strained, and a secret bond that may have already done irreversible damage. And the worst part? This was only the beginning, because the people affected were just starting to speak out, and what came next would push the drama into an entirely new level of chaos. The silence didn't last long. Once that final message made its way into the public eye, the phones started ringing nonstop. Insiders say Erica was the first to feel the full weight of it. Her inbox flooded with messages from friends, critics, and even people she hadn't spoken to in years. Some demanded explanations, others hurled accusations. Fans are shocked at how quickly public sympathy turned into suspicion. Every move she made was suddenly under a microscope, every old interview clipped and reanalyzed for hidden meaning. Mendeecees, meanwhile, was allegedly facing chaos at home. Sources close to the situation say the atmosphere was thick with tension, the kind you can't escape no matter which room you walk into. Family members reportedly confronted him one by one, asking the same question in different ways. Why her? Why now? And why risk everything? Emotions ran high, voices were raised, and the family was left divided between those who believed he was emotionally manipulated and those who felt he willingly crossed a line he knew better than to approach. What made it worse was how familiar some of the leaked messages sounded. Fans began pointing out that certain phrases Mendeecees allegedly used with Erica mirrored things he had said publicly in the past about loyalty and trust. "That's his wording," one fan wrote. "He doesn't talk like that to just anyone." The comment went viral, igniting a fresh wave of speculation that this bond wasn't accidental, but intentional and deeply personal. Behind the scenes, Erica was reportedly spiraling. Insiders claim she felt betrayed by whoever leaked the receipts, insisting those conversations were private and never meant for public consumption. She allegedly told a close friend, "They took my weakest moments and turned them into entertainment." But critics weren't buying it. Many argued that once lines are crossed, privacy becomes a luxury you forfeit. Fans are shocked by how divided the audience became, with some defending her vulnerability while others accused her of playing the victim after getting caught. As pressure mounted, Erica allegedly reached out to Mendeecees, demanding they get their stories straight. Sources say the conversation was tense, filled with blame and frustration. Erica reportedly felt abandoned, claiming that Mendeecees was pulling back just when the backlash hit its peak. Mendeecees, on the other hand, was said to be furious that the situation had escalated this far, insisting he never wanted things exposed. That call reportedly ended abruptly, leaving both sides feeling betrayed in different ways. Then came another twist no one saw coming. A former friend of Erica stepped forward anonymously, claiming the bond between Erica and Mendeecees didn't just exist online. According to this source, there were secret meetups disguised as group hangouts, moments where the two would disappear to talk privately. Nothing physical was confirmed, but the implication alone was enough to reignite the firestorm. Fans are shocked at how quickly the narrative shifted from emotional connection to possible secret encounters. Blogs ran wild with the new claims. Reaction channels dissected timelines, matching alleged meetups with social media posts. Fans noticed overlapping locations, similar backgrounds in photos posted hours apart. "This can't be a coincidence," one comment read, gaining thousands of likes. The internet jury was already reaching its verdict, long before any facts could be confirmed. Emotions ran high, and the family was left divided yet again as whispers turned into accusations. Mendeecees reportedly denied the meetup allegations outright, calling them pure fiction. But insiders say his denial only fueled more suspicion, especially when he refused to address specific dates mentioned in the leaks. Erica, on the other hand, allegedly went silent, which fans interpreted as either legal caution or quiet guilt. That silence spoke louder than any statement could, allowing speculation to fill the void. The stress reportedly began taking a toll. Sources claim Erica withdrew from social events, avoiding places where she might be confronted. Mendeecees was said to be sleeping in separate spaces, the emotional distance becoming physical. Family members tried to mediate, but every conversation circled back to the same unresolved issues: trust, boundaries, and why Erica became the person he leaned on when things got hard. Just when the story seemed to plateau, a new batch of receipts dropped. This time, they included a long message allegedly sent by Mendeecees, expressing regret not for the bond itself, but for how it ended up exposed. "I hate that they get to twist something that meant something to me," the message read. That single line sent fans into a frenzy. Meant something. Those two words became the centerpiece of debates across social media, with many arguing it confirmed what people suspected all along. Friends began speaking out more openly. One claimed Erica warned them months earlier that, if this ever got out, it would destroy everything. Another alleged Mendeecees was warned repeatedly to cut contact but didn't. These statements painted a picture of two people aware they were playing with fire, yet unwilling to step back. Fans are shocked at how much foresight there seemed to be, making the fallout feel less like an accident and more like a slow-motion disaster. As tensions escalated, Erica reportedly broke down during a private conversation with a confidant, admitting she felt emotionally attached in ways she didn't expect. She allegedly said, "It started as support, but somewhere along the way, it became something I couldn't control." That confession, once leaked, shifted public perception again. Some saw it as honesty, others as confirmation of emotional betrayal. The family was left divided over whether remorse came too late to matter. Mendeecees, according to insiders, felt trapped between accountability and self-preservation. Admitting too much could ruin relationships beyond repair, but denying everything made him look dishonest. That internal conflict reportedly fueled more arguments, more silence, and more distance. Fans are shocked at how quickly a hidden bond unraveled multiple lives, exposing cracks that had been forming long before the receipts ever leaked. And as the dust continued to swirl, one thing was undeniable. This was no longer just about Erica and Mendeecees. It had become a cautionary tale about blurred boundaries, emotional dependence, and secrets that refused to stay buried. With more people threatening to speak out and more receipts rumored to be waiting, the story was far from over. The next revelations wouldn't just add drama, they threatened to permanently change how everyone involved would be seen, both on and off camera. The situation reached a breaking point when people closest to the fallout finally realized silence was no longer an option. Insiders say private conversations turned into confrontations that could no longer be contained. The tension surrounding Erica Mena was described as suffocating, with friends claiming she felt hunted by public opinion while also wrestling with her own guilt. She reportedly questioned whether the bond was ever truly harmless or if she had crossed emotional lines she once swore she never would again. On the other side, Mendeecees Harris was allegedly dealing with pressure that came from all directions. Family members felt embarrassed, betrayed, and angry that private issues had become public spectacle. According to one source, a heated argument erupted late one night when a relative accused him of opening the door and acting surprised when the storm came in. Emotions ran high, and the family was left divided, with some believing he was wrong for letting the bond grow and others insisting Erica was the one who pushed it too far. As more conversations leaked, fans noticed a recurring pattern. The messages showed cycles of distance followed by intense reconnecting. Periods where they claimed to stop talking, only to pick right back up days later with even more emotional urgency. "I tried to stay away, but you're always in my head," one alleged message read. That single line fueled a new wave of backlash, with fans insisting this wasn't confusion, but choice. Fans are shocked at how deliberate it all sounded. Erica's inner circle reportedly grew smaller by the day. Some friends distanced themselves, not wanting to be dragged into the drama. Others stayed close, encouraging her to speak out and control the narrative before it controlled her. But insiders say Erica hesitated, torn between defending herself and fearing that any statement would only make things worse. Every option felt like a trap, and the pressure was visibly taking a toll. Meanwhile, rumors began circulating that Mendeecees had issued ultimatums behind the scenes. Sources claim he demanded all communication stop completely, warning that any further leaks would permanently destroy what little trust remained. Erica allegedly took that demand hard, interpreting it as abandonment. According to a leaked voice note, she said, "You don't get to disappear now that everything's on fire." That statement alone suggested unresolved emotions still simmering beneath the chaos. Then came another bombshell. A longtime associate stepped forward claiming the bond between them had been an open secret in certain circles. "People just didn't think it would ever come out like this," the source said. They alleged that subtle boundaries were crossed publicly as well, but went unnoticed because no one expected betrayal from that direction. Fans immediately began combing through past footage again, freezing frames, dissecting body language, and sharing clips that suddenly looked very different in hindsight. The online reaction grew more vicious. Comment sections turned ruthless, and reaction videos hit record numbers. Some fans accused Erica of intentionally seeking emotional validation outside appropriate boundaries. Others blamed Mendeecees for allowing himself to be emotionally vulnerable with someone he knew could complicate his life. The divide was sharp, and neither side escaped criticism. Emotions ran high as supporters argued late into the night, each convinced they had uncovered the real truth. Behind closed doors, the emotional fallout reportedly became overwhelming. Erica was said to have broken down during a private conversation, admitting she felt consumed by the bond long before the leaks. "I didn't plan this," she allegedly said. "It just became something I needed." That admission, once whispered through inner circles, shifted the narrative again. Fans are shocked at how openly emotional dependence was being discussed, blurring the lines between comfort and betrayal. Mendeecees, according to insiders, was struggling with regret mixed with defensiveness. He reportedly insisted that nothing physical ever happened, but admitted the emotional closeness went too far. That admission caused another round of family arguments, with some insisting emotional cheating was still cheating, while others argued intent mattered. The family was left divided, unable to agree on whether forgiveness was even possible. As weeks passed, the damage only deepened. Erica's reputation took hit after hit, with critics resurfacing old controversies to paint a pattern of chaos. Supporters pushed back, accusing the public of misogyny and selective outrage. Mendeecees faced his own reckoning, as fans questioned his judgment and integrity. Brands reportedly grew cautious, watching the situation unfold before making any decisions tied to their names. Then, in a move no one expected, another set of receipts surfaced suggesting there was a final confrontation between Erica and Mendeecees after the leaks. The messages allegedly showed anger, heartbreak, and unresolved attachment all tangled together. "I can't pretend this didn't matter," one message read. "But I also can't keep destroying everything." Fans latched onto that line, calling it proof that the bond was real, deep, and damaging. That confrontation reportedly marked the end of direct communication, but not the end of the fallout. Both sides were left dealing with the wreckage separately, replaying every decision that led them there. Friends say Erica felt used and exposed, while Mendeecees felt trapped by his own silence and poor choices. Neither emerged unscathed. The public, meanwhile, refused to let the story fade. Every vague post, every cryptic quote shared online was treated as a clue. Fans analyzed emojis, timestamps, even song lyrics, convinced there was more being hinted at. The pressure to explain, deny, or confess became relentless, turning private pain into public entertainment. And as the noise continued to grow, one uncomfortable truth became impossible to ignore. This wasn't just a scandal about leaked messages. It was about boundaries that eroded slowly, about emotional needs unmet and redirected, and about secrets that felt safe until they weren't. Fans are shocked at how quickly admiration turned into disappointment, and how a hidden bond reshaped multiple lives in ways no apology could undo. By the time the dust began to settle, the damage was already done. Trust was fractured, relationships altered, and reputations forever changed. But whispers persisted that not all receipts had been released, and that more voices were preparing to speak. Because in a story built on silence and secrecy, the loudest chapters were still waiting to be told. The aftermath didn't bring peace, it brought paranoia. Insiders say both sides became hyper-aware of everything around them, questioning who could be trusted and who might be holding onto unseen receipts. Erica reportedly felt like every conversation was a potential leak, every friendly message a possible setup. She allegedly told someone close to her that she felt stripped of control, saying the story had taken on a life of its own, no longer belonging to the people who lived it. Mena was said to be emotionally exhausted, replaying the timeline in her head over and over. Friends claim she kept asking the same question: where exactly did it cross the line? Was it the first late-night call, the first emotional confession, or the first time she realized she cared too much about his validation? Those closest to her say she struggled with shame mixed with defiance, torn between owning her mistakes and refusing to be painted as the sole villain. Mendeecees Harris, meanwhile, allegedly tried to retreat into silence, hoping the storm would pass. But silence only made things worse. Fans interpreted it as avoidance, and critics accused him of hiding behind quiet while Erica took the heat. According to insiders, that imbalance caused fresh resentment, with Erica allegedly feeling thrown under the bus. "We're both in this," she reportedly said during a tense conversation. "But I'm the only one bleeding." Rumors began swirling that legal teams were quietly consulted, not necessarily for lawsuits, but to understand what could and couldn't be addressed publicly. That alone sent fans into speculation mode. Emotions ran high as people wondered just how damaging the unseen messages might be. If lawyers were involved, many assumed the worst was still hidden. Reaction videos exploded again, with creators warning viewers that this story is far from done. Then came the family pressure. Sources claim Mendeecees' family demanded a clean break, not just from Erica, but from anyone connected to the leaks. They allegedly insisted that continued association would only invite more chaos. The family was left divided when not everyone agreed. Some believed cutting Erica off completely was necessary. Others felt the damage was already done and that accountability mattered more than distance. Those disagreements reportedly led to emotional confrontations that reopened old wounds unrelated to Erica but magnified by the scandal. Erica's family situation wasn't any calmer. Insiders say she faced tough conversations about patterns, boundaries, and why she keeps ending up in emotionally volatile situations. Critics pointed to her past, claiming this was just another chapter in a familiar cycle. Supporters pushed back hard, saying trauma doesn't vanish overnight and that growth isn't linear. Fans are shocked at how deeply personal the public discourse became, turning psychological analysis into entertainment. Another twist hit when a cryptic social media post appeared, allegedly from someone close to the situation. It read, "Truth doesn't disappear just because you ignore it." No names were mentioned, but fans immediately connected it to the scandal. Comment sections erupted, with people demanding whoever posted it to drop the receipts already. The hunger for more proof seemed endless, as if the audience wouldn't be satisfied until every private moment was laid bare. Behind the scenes, insiders claim Erica wrestled with whether to finally tell her side fully. Some friends encouraged her to do a sit-down interview to reclaim her narrative. Others warned it could backfire, dragging the story out longer and inviting harsher scrutiny. That internal debate reportedly caused sleepless nights, with Erica torn between self-defense and self-preservation. She allegedly said, "No matter what I say, someone's going to hate me." Mendeecees was said to be dealing with a different kind of turmoil, regret mixed with fear. Insiders claim he worried that even honest admissions could be twisted into worse accusations. Every word felt dangerous. One source described him as walking on glass, unsure which step might shatter what little stability remained. That fear reportedly kept him quiet, fueling even more speculation from the outside. As time passed, fans noticed subtle shifts. Erica's tone online reportedly changed, becoming sharper, more defensive. Mendeecees' presence grew more minimal, almost ghost-like. Every move was interpreted as strategy. Emotions ran high as people projected intentions onto silence, onto emojis, onto song lyrics shared without context. The story had evolved into a collective obsession. Then came another alleged leak, smaller but emotionally potent. A message where Erica supposedly said, "I lost more than people will ever know." That line struck a nerve. Supporters rallied around it, claiming she paid the highest price emotionally. Critics dismissed it as self-pity. Once again, the audience split cleanly down the middle, with no sign of reconciliation between opposing views. Insiders say the final rupture between Erica and Mendeecees wasn't explosive but devastatingly quiet. No screaming, no dramatic goodbye. Just a mutual understanding that whatever existed between them had caused too much destruction to survive. That realization reportedly left both feeling hollow rather than relieved. The bond may have ended, but its consequences lingered everywhere. The industry response followed quickly. Whispers of cancelled opportunities, paused negotiations, and wait-and-see attitudes began circulating. Nobody wanted to be attached to unresolved controversy. Fans are shocked at how quickly public favor can shift, how one leaked storyline can ripple outward and affect careers, not just relationships. Even so, the story refused to die. Anonymous sources hinted that other people involved were preparing to speak, tired of being silent while narratives formed without them. That threat alone kept the tension alive. Viewers waited for the next shoe to drop, convinced that the truth was still incomplete. And at the heart of it all was an uncomfortable realization fans couldn't ignore. This wasn't a simple tale of right and wrong. It was messy, emotional, human, and deeply flawed. Boundaries blurred slowly, not all at once. Mistakes compounded quietly until they exploded publicly. Fans are shocked not just by what was revealed, but by how relatable the emotional missteps felt, even if the consequences were magnified by fame. As the dust settled unevenly, one question remained unanswered and haunting. If the receipts had never leaked, would the bond have continued? Or would it have eventually burned itself out in silence? No one could say for sure. But one thing was clear. Once secrets become stories, there's no putting them back where they came from. And in this saga, the loudest fallout might still be waiting just around the corner. The tension reached a strange new phase where nothing was officially said, yet everything felt exposed. Insiders describe it as the calm after a storm that still threatens thunder. Erica was reportedly trying to rebuild some sense of normalcy, but the damage followed her everywhere. Every appearance, every post, every smile was dissected for authenticity. Fans are shocked at how unforgiving the spotlight became, turning even neutral moments into supposed evidence of guilt or denial. Mena was said to be deeply affected by the way public perception hardened against her. Friends claim she struggled with the idea that no explanation would ever be enough. According to one insider, she said, "They don't want clarity, they want blood." That feeling of being judged without trial reportedly pushed her into isolation, where she replayed the fallout again and again, questioning not just her choices but her entire sense of self. Mendeecees Harris, meanwhile, allegedly felt trapped by expectations he couldn't meet. Family wanted accountability, fans wanted statements, critics wanted confessions. Insiders say he felt pulled in every direction, yet unable to move. The silence that once seemed protective now felt like a prison. Every day without speaking made the next day even harder to break that silence. As weeks dragged on, new narratives began forming without input from either side. Anonymous sources filled the gaps, some sympathetic, others ruthless. One rumor claimed the bond had been deeper than either admitted, another insisted it was exaggerated and weaponized. Emotions ran high as fans argued over which version felt more believable. The family was left divided once again, not just over what happened, but over how much truth should ever be revealed. Erica's supporters began reframing the story as one of emotional survival, arguing she latched onto understanding because she felt constantly misunderstood. Critics countered that vulnerability doesn't excuse boundary crossing. The back and forth became relentless, turning comment sections into war zones. Fans are shocked at how a private emotional connection evolved into a public referendum on morality, loyalty, and forgiveness. Then came a subtle but chilling development. Insiders claim Erica was warned that more receipts might still be out there, held by someone who hadn't decided whether to release them. That knowledge reportedly kept her on edge, waiting for another wave of exposure. Friends say she lived with a constant knot in her stomach, never knowing if tomorrow would bring closure or another public reckoning. Mendeecees allegedly received similar warnings, with whispers that people close to the situation were tired of staying quiet. That threat alone kept tensions high. Even without new leaks, the possibility of them loomed like a shadow, shaping every decision. Insiders say it forced uncomfortable conversations about accountability, regret, and what responsibility looked like now that the damage was done. The emotional toll reportedly began manifesting physically. Sleepless nights, strained relationships, and emotional burnout became common themes. Friends noticed Erica growing more guarded, less trusting. Mendeecees was said to withdraw further, speaking only when necessary. Fans are shocked at how prolonged the fallout became, refusing to fade even as time passed. At one point, a rumored attempt at mediation surfaced. Insiders claim a mutual contact tried to facilitate a final conversation aimed at closure, not reconciliation. The goal was to acknowledge harm, set boundaries, and finally let go. But sources say the attempt failed almost immediately. Too much resentment, too many unspoken feelings, and too much fear of saying the wrong thing kept the conversation from going anywhere meaningful. That failure reportedly cemented the end of whatever bond once existed. Not with dramatic words, but with exhausted acceptance. Both sides realized there was no version of this story where everyone walked away whole. The bond that once felt comforting now symbolized loss, regret, and consequences neither could escape. Public opinion continued to evolve in unpredictable ways. Some fans softened, expressing fatigue over the constant outrage. Others doubled down, insisting accountability should never be optional. Emotions ran high as people projected their own experiences onto the situation, seeing reflections of past betrayals or emotional entanglements in the story. Industry insiders began whispering about long-term impact. Reputations, they said, don't recover quickly from emotional scandals because they blur lines in ways audiences struggle to forgive. Erika and Mendeecees were no longer just individuals, they were cautionary symbols. Fans are shocked at how fast admiration can turn into moral judgment when emotional boundaries are questioned. As the months wore on, the story settled into a strange limbo. No explosive updates, no clear resolutions, just lingering questions. Was the bond worth the fallout? Did either of them truly understand the risks while they were in it? And most importantly, could trust ever be rebuilt with the people they hurt along the way? One insider summed it up quietly, saying, "The loudest damage wasn't what leaked, it was what couldn't be taken back." That sentiment resonated with fans who began viewing the saga less as scandal and more as tragedy. Not everyone agreed, but the tone shifted slightly, from rage to reflection. Still, unresolved tension remained. The possibility of more receipts, more voices, more revelations hung in the air. The story wasn't actively exploding anymore, but it was far from over. It lived on in speculation, in caution, in the way both Erika and Mendeecees moved differently now, shaped by a bond that once felt safe and ended up costing far more than either expected. And as viewers continued to watch from the outside, one uncomfortable truth lingered. Fame doesn't protect emotional mistakes, it magnifies them. And when private bonds become public stories, the fallout doesn't end when the messages stop. It lingers, reshaping lives quietly, long after the headlines fade. The story entered its most dangerous phase when fatigue met resentment. Insiders say both sides were tired of fighting narratives they didn't fully control, yet neither could truly let go. Erika reportedly tried to refocus on work, convincing herself that time would dull the edges. But every time she stepped forward, the past pulled her back. Fans are shocked at how memory works online, how nothing ever really disappears once it's been screenshot and shared. Mena was said to be navigating a complicated mix of accountability and self-protection. Friends claimed she acknowledged mistakes privately but struggled with the idea of public confession. "If I admit everything they think I did, they'll never let me live it down," she allegedly said. That fear kept her guarded, choosing silence over vulnerability, even as critics framed that silence as guilt. Mendeecees Harris, meanwhile, was reportedly confronting consequences that couldn't be ignored anymore. Family members pushed for clarity, not just for the public but for themselves. Insiders say difficult conversations unfolded behind closed doors, revisiting old wounds that had nothing to do with Erika but were reignited by the scandal. Emotions ran high as blame shifted, not just between individuals but across years of unresolved tension. Then came a subtle escalation. A vague comment from someone adjacent to the situation hinted that the story fans knew was only half the truth. No names were mentioned, but the implication alone sent shockwaves through social media. Fans are shocked at how quickly anticipation replaced outrage. Suddenly, people weren't just angry, they were waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the missing chapters to be exposed. Insiders claim Erika felt that shift immediately. The fear wasn't just judgment anymore, it was anticipation. She allegedly worried that someone else's version of events could rewrite her role entirely. Friends say she debated going public preemptively, believing that controlling the narrative, even imperfectly, might be safer than waiting for another leak. But doubt held her back. Once you speak, you can't unspeak. Mendeecees reportedly faced a similar dilemma. Admitting too much could validate critics. Saying too little made him look evasive. According to one source, he asked privately, "Is there any version of honesty that doesn't end in destruction?" That question haunted him, because the answer seemed to be no. Honesty, at this point, came with consequences either way. As the waiting game dragged on, fans began filling the silence with theories. Some insisted the bond was deeper than emotional, others argued it was exaggerated for clicks. Reaction videos turned speculative, analyzing tone instead of facts. Emotions ran high as certainty dissolved into interpretation. The family was left divided not just over what happened, but over whether the truth even mattered anymore. Another turning point came when Erica reportedly distanced herself from people she believed couldn't be trusted. Longtime friendships cooled. Familiar faces disappeared. Insiders say she felt safer shrinking her circle, even if it meant feeling alone. "I can't afford another betrayal," she allegedly said. That isolation, while protective, deepened the emotional toll. Mendeecees was said to retreat in his own way, focusing inward and limiting exposure. Friends noticed he became more cautious, less expressive. The man who once spoke freely now weighed every word. Fans are shocked at how visibly the situation changed him, turning confidence into caution. Then, unexpectedly, a moment of humanity cut through the noise. An insider claims there was a brief exchange between Erica and Mendeecees, not to argue, not to defend, but to acknowledge reality. No accusations, no justifications. Just exhaustion. "This destroyed more than I thought," one of them allegedly said. That moment, quiet and unrecorded, marked a shift. Not forgiveness, but acceptance that the damage was real. Publicly, nothing changed. Privately, everything did. Both sides reportedly began grieving not just the bond, but the versions of themselves that existed before the fallout. Erica mourned the belief that emotional honesty could be safe. Mendeecees mourned the illusion that silence could protect everyone involved. Fans are shocked at how rarely that side of scandals is acknowledged, the grief that follows after the outrage fades. Still, the threat of more receipts never fully disappeared. Whispers continued, enough to keep nerves frayed. Insiders say that uncertainty shaped every decision. Future plans were delayed. Opportunities were weighed against risk. Nothing felt simple anymore. As months passed, the conversation slowly shifted again. Outrage softened into curiosity, curiosity into fatigue. Some fans moved on. Others stayed invested, waiting for closure that might never come. The story lingered in that uncomfortable space where it was no longer breaking news, but not history either. And in that space, reflection finally crept in. People began asking harder questions. Not just who was wrong, but why emotional boundaries are so easily dismissed until they're broken. Why validation can feel harmless until it costs everything. Fans are shocked at how recognizable the emotional patterns were, even if the faces were famous. The family, still divided, learned to coexist with unanswered questions. Some relationships healed partially, others remained strained. Accountability came quietly, not through statements or interviews, but through changed behavior and unspoken lessons. By the time the noise truly began to fade, the story had transformed. It was no longer just about leaked messages or secret bonds. It was about consequences that unfold slowly, long after attention moves on. Erica and Mendeecees carried those consequences differently, but neither escaped them. And while the internet searched for a final verdict, the truth settled into something far less dramatic but far more lasting. Mistakes don't always end with explosions. Sometimes they echo, quietly, endlessly, reshaping lives in ways no headline can fully capture. The final stretch of the fallout unfolded in a way no one expected, not with explosions, but with quiet consequences stacking one on top of another. Insiders say the scandal changed how people spoke in rooms Erica entered, how conversations paused when Mendeecees walked by. Nothing was said outright, yet everything was felt. Fans are shocked at how silence can be louder than accusations, how absence of answers can feel heavier than denial. Mena reportedly tried to reclaim pieces of herself that had nothing to do with the drama. Friends claim she focused on routine, structure, and distance from the noise. But even then, reminders slipped through. A comment here, a headline there, a clip resurfacing from years ago, now reframed through scandal. She allegedly said, "They rewrote my whole story without asking me." That feeling of being misunderstood became a constant weight she couldn't shake. Mendeecees Harris was said to be dealing with a different reckoning, one rooted in trust. Family relationships didn't explode, they cooled. Insiders describe it as a slow freeze, where warmth was replaced by caution. People still showed up, still spoke, but something essential was missing. Emotions ran high in private moments, where unresolved questions lingered without answers strong enough to settle them. What surprised many was how the public slowly lost interest in outrage but not in judgment. Fans stopped demanding statements, yet continued forming conclusions. Erica noticed it first, according to insiders. The comments shifted from anger to dismissal. "She's just like that," people wrote. That label hurt more than direct insults because it felt permanent. Fans are shocked at how quickly complex situations get reduced to simple narratives once fatigue sets in. Mendeecees felt that shift too. Criticism softened into skepticism. Every future move was viewed through the lens of the past. Trust, once questioned publicly, never fully returned. Insiders say he realized that even doing everything right going forward wouldn't erase what people believed they saw. That realization reportedly changed how he approached everything, from relationships to decisions to silence itself. Behind the scenes, conversations about growth began happening, not for the public but for survival. Erica's inner circle encouraged therapy, reflection, and boundaries that didn't bend under emotional pressure. She allegedly admitted that being understood felt addictive, and that addiction blurred her judgment. That self-awareness didn't fix the damage, but it shifted how she carried it. Mendeecees reportedly confronted his own patterns, particularly his tendency to confide outside the spaces that required accountability. Insiders say he acknowledged that emotional honesty without boundaries can become reckless, even if intentions aren't malicious. That admission came quietly, without cameras or posts, but it mattered deeply to those closest to him. Still, the shadow of receipts never fully disappeared. Even months later, a single rumor about unseen messages could reignite speculation overnight. Fans are shocked at how long the threat of exposure can linger, shaping behavior long after the event itself ends. Both Erica and Mendeecees lived with that awareness, moving carefully, trusting selectively. One unexpected outcome was how the story began influencing others. Fans shared their own experiences, recognizing similar emotional entanglements in their lives. Comment sections shifted from accusations to confessions. People talked about emotional cheating, blurred lines, and the danger of feeling seen by the wrong person at the wrong time. The scandal, unintentionally, became a mirror. Industry insiders quietly took notes. Boundaries became buzzwords again. Contracts included new clauses. Teams became more cautious about proximity and perception. Erica and Mendeecees weren't just individuals anymore, they were examples. Fans are shocked at how one private bond reshaped conversations far beyond the people involved. As time passed, the idea of closure faded. There was no final interview, no dramatic apology, no definitive truth drop. Just distance. Just lessons learned too late. Erica accepted that some people would never believe her intentions. Mendeecees accepted that silence would always be interpreted, no matter how careful he was. The family, still divided in subtle ways, adjusted to a new normal. Some relationships healed partially, others stayed guarded. Forgiveness existed in fragments, not wholes. Emotions ran high less often, but when they did, they carried the weight of everything left unsaid. Eventually, the headlines slowed. New scandals replaced old ones. But for those involved, the impact remained. Erica moved differently, trusted differently, loved differently. Mendeecees did the same. Neither emerged unchanged, and neither pretended otherwise. Fans are shocked when they realize the real ending wasn't explosive at all. It was quiet, it was reflective, it was heavy. The bond that once felt secret and safe became a turning point neither could undo. And while the internet searched endlessly for villains and victims, the truth lived somewhere far messier in between. Because not all damage announces itself loudly. Some damage settles in slowly, reshaping choices, relationships, and identities over time. And long after the receipts stopped leaking, their consequences continued to speak, in silence, in distance, and in the lessons no one wanted to learn the hard way. Now it's on you. After hearing all of this, you've seen how fast a secret bond can turn into a public fallout, how receipts can flip a narrative overnight, and how silence can be just as loud as a confession. But the biggest question is still hanging in the air, and only you can weigh in on it. Do you think this was just an emotional connection that spiraled out of control, or was it something deeper that should have never crossed the line in the first place? Fans are shocked, opinions are split, and the family is still left divided. Some people see vulnerability and poor boundaries. Others see betrayal and calculated secrecy. And then there are those who believe the truth sits somewhere in the middle, messy, human, and uncomfortable. Where do you stand? Because your perspective matters more than ever in a story like this. If you've been watching closely, you already know this saga isn't just about gossip. It's about trust, emotional loyalty, and the consequences that come when private choices become public conversations. And with rumors of more receipts still floating around, this story might not be over yet. So don't just watch and scroll. Jump into the comments and tell me what you think really happened behind closed doors. Was the bond innocent until it wasn't, or was it doomed from the start? Do you believe silence was the right move, or should everything have been addressed head-on? If you want to stay ahead of the drama, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because around here, we don't just follow the headlines, we break down what they really mean. And trust me, the next chapter could drop at any moment.